Welcome everyone. Welcome. I see some people are joining in now. But yeah, we'll get started. So, so far right now, I'm looking at SPY futures chart here on the daily, and we have actually seeing a nice gap up. And so far, we have filled in the gap here. If you take a look on the hourly time frames, right, we have filled in the gap. All right, and we are starting to see a potential lower high, and that's what I've been looking for and telling you guys to watch out for. And so tomorrow there is a possibility that we can see the same thing happening on SPY tomorrow. So right on the, well, it doesn't really matter which one you guys look at, to be honest. So 410 or 410.50 is kind of your rejection point, or rejection areas. This is your resistance levels that you guys should be watching out for. And then the maximum target that you guys should be looking out for is 411.50 or even 412. So there is a chance that we can squeeze all the way up to 412 this week and possibly retest $411.91, which was the previous pivot high point. And that's all going to come down to Wednesday when we have the CPI inflation report for March. All right, I've already told my members what I expect and what we should be looking out for this week in the newsletter. So for SPY, again, we are currently in this choppy zone, right, between 406 to 413. How do we know this? Well, if you go back in the past here, just based on the price action. So if you take a look at the price action only, the candlesticks here, all right, we have this area where we've bounced up, rejected down, bounced up and rejected down again repeatedly until we had the decisive move to the downside, and that's when we had our the short-term downtrend all the way up to mid-March. So for SPY, again, you really want to be looking out for, let me bring my drawings back here. So you really want to be looking out for a potential lower high this week, all right, compared to the first high right over here. And then make a nice arrow point here, right? And so again, this could happen anywhere between 410 to 410.50, and if we do get a nice squeeze before inflation numbers come out, or even during or after inflation data comes out, we can hit around 411.50ish here. All right. So realistically speaking, though, I totally expect a rejection around 410 or between 410 to 410.50. All right. So make sure you guys have these levels on your chart. All right. Now, if you guys have missed out on the couple of other live streams that I did last week, I did mention that we have this nice double bottom, right? This double bottom is clearly here. I mean, you guys can see this with your eyes. We have the left bottom over here and the right bottom right over here, all right? And on the hourly time frame, we still have a little bit of room to go up higher, matter of fact, right? And even the RSI tells you this, right? We have the RSI value of 59.57 on the hourly time frame, and if you continue to go up higher on the time frame, we still have more room to go up higher, right? So it's a little bit too early to be bearish, right? I mean, so far, I don't know why anyone would be bearish, but we have been having this extremely nice uptrend ever since we've retested, reclaimed, and remounted the $400 psychological level, right? And all we need to do now is to get to that double-digit number over 400, right? So the 410s and higher, and keep on trudging up higher, right? And again, I'm telling you guys this right now, we still have room to move up higher. And so even on the daily, the RSI value is sitting at 61, right? So we're not even at overbought conditions yet. And even the first move lower after our first pivot high point at $411.92 on this candlestick's high of today, we were sitting at 61, right? And so we're still at 61.03 for the RSI value on the daily time frame. So there's no reason to be bearish here just yet, right? We are not in overbought conditions. Okay, now there is a similar story going on with QQQ. Okay, so QQQ is actually looking a lot better than SPY. Why? Well, first of all, we have been riding this momentum SMA, my 10 SMA higher, and also the 21 SMA is not that far behind compared to SPY, right? The 10 and the 21, right? They were pretty far away until last week when we decided to chop around between these two ranges, right? These two levels, 412 to 406, or if you guys want to give, if you guys want me to give the actual range, 413 to 406, okay? And thanks to this consolidation, we're allowed to see that the 10 SMA is catching up to the price. And the only thing here is that the 21 is still very much far away, right? Just the observable distance between the candlesticks and the 21 SMA is a bit far away. We are still not even close to 400. And in fact, on Thursday, last Thursday, we ended up at $397.03. Okay, that's not good, right? And again, if you go back to QQQ, right, the Qs, this looks like a typical uptrend. We want to see the 10 and 21 trailing behind, right? And even if we decide to come back down to retest the 10 SMA here, there's this red line. We want to be holding it as often as possible. We retest it and we bounce off of it. And guess what? That's what we've been doing ever since we've broken out of this nice descending macro trend line, right? This resistance trend line here. And so at some point, we're going to get that retest of the 21 SMA. Now, I don't know when that's going to be. It might be this week. If you do see a nice reversal of this trend to the downside, who knows? Maybe during the day when we get our inflation report for March, which will be on Wednesday this week. But again, everything looks bullish, right? The tech market, the tech sector has been especially very, very strong, relatively strong compared to the overall markets, right? The other indices. So I expect this one to continue its relative strength. Sure, it might take a nice little breather here between 312 to around, I would say, if I move this level up here, 321. All right, and I love the fact that we've also filled in a gap that we didn't fill back in mid-August of 2022. Right, and so this tells me that buyers are in control because again, this was a gap down, right? It wasn't a gap up, it was a gap down, and this gap down was caused by sellers, right? And so if you have a nice gap fill, right, of a gap down, that indicates that buyers have now fully regained control of this area where buyers previously could not fill in the gap. And so almost well, a year later here, well, not really a year later, but a couple of months later, we had this nice gap fill indicating that buyers are definitely in control. And I love the fact that on Thursday we got this nice big bullish full-bodied candlestick, and we've also closed over the 10 SMA once more, indicating that the momentum is still to the upside. And so don't trust, people on Twitter saying that we are bound for a huge crash. There's nothing here telling me, right? Nothing observable here telling me that we're due for some sort of huge move lower, right? Even on the weekly time frame, right? This is looking very, very bullish. If I take out all my lines here, the technical analysis, I mean, what's there to be bearish about on this chart here, right? We have higher highs, higher lows, right? Higher lows right here and higher highs right over here, all right? And so that is a typical textbook uptrend that you want to be in line with, right? And so QQQs, they continue to trudge up higher, and we will continue to follow the trend and not fight the trend here as it's going up higher and higher and higher. All right, now let's take a look at the small caps, the Russell 2000. So this one has definitely seen better days, right? So IWM on the daily has been in a hard downtrend. Okay, so since it got hit pretty hard after February seasonality trend was priced in, and we saw this nice move lower, and obviously we hit that low in mid-March in the overall indices. This one hasn't been able to break up higher, and in fact, last week we had this nice large red day that officially rejected this current, well, 2 weeks ago here, this attempt at an uptrend and a breakout, and we saw this nice rejection at the daily 200 SMA. And in fact, all right, now there are a bunch of tech stocks, individual tech stocks, that have reached these types of huge overhead supply areas. So again, that's the reason why I said this week we might see some consolidation, some more choppiness before we see another move up higher, or potentially a reversal back to the downside. Right, so we have to be vigilant here. And so IWM got this early, right? We saw this retest at the daily 200 SMA a little bit earlier than the other indices. Well, because the other indices are already above the daily 200 and the 50, and that's the reason why IWM has seen better days here. And so for this one to really continue up higher, we need to get back over, I would say 177.50, right? So this was the level here that we really wanted to move over, and we failed to do that as we rejected this daily 200 SMA. And so, for now, we're seeing the 21, okay, crossing below the 10 SMA, while the 10 SMA is starting to kind of flatten out. So what tends to happen here is that we tend to get a flattening of the 10 SMA, and the price will continue to use the 10 SMA as a level of resistance. And just like as it's been doing with the 21 here so far in the past 2 trading days, on Wednesday and Thursday of last week. And so, this might be looked upon as a bullish indication. Yes, it could be, but again, the price, okay, supersedes the SMA here, right? And so the price right now is still in a downtrend, right? Definitely in a downtrend. And unless we're able to break over this 177.50 and ultimately retest the 200 and break over 200, I will be convinced, right? I will be convinced that we are in an uptrend. But if we don't do that, then I will not be convinced that we are officially in an uptrend for the small caps. And right now, so far, the sector rotation has been very interesting, right? We've been seeing money go out of small caps, as seen by this overall small cap ETF, this index. And we've been seeing a lot of money coming back into tech stocks as we've seen the breakout back in mid-March. So hopefully we can see some type of sector rotation back into small caps so that we can save IWM here. All right. And that is it for the market analysis here for SPY, QQQ, IWM. But I kind of want to go back to SPY here because I kind of want to give you guys another outlook on SPX, right? This is the S&P 500 index that people tend to look at, especially if they don't trade SPY, they tend to look at the SPX. I don't trade this one, but it has similar movements because it is still SPY, the S&P 500. And so if I take my drawings back here, okay, so we've had this very, very nice double bottom, right? And we used the December lows to have a nice bounce on for the March lows of this year. And this kind of reminds me of the March lows of 2020, right? In fact, obviously, March 2020 was a lot deeper here, the March 2020 low, right? This is the bottom point here. It was a huge move to the downside. So it's a lot different compared to the current March 2023 lows that we have here. But again, we've been seeing a very nice uptrend ever since we had a nice bottoming out here of the price during this mid-March of this year. So for SPX, again, we still have a lot of room to the upside. The RSI is at 60.77 on the daily time frame. And guess what? Even on the weekly time frame, right? We still have lots of room to the upside. The RSI is at 55.35. So this tells me that, number one, the price is very, very strong, relatively strong. And number two, there's still a lot of room to move to the upside on the longer term time frames, right? And so both the daily and the weekly looks absolutely amazing. And I love the fact that we are now sitting above and consolidating above the major SMAs. I do not want to see the repeat, right, of the previous area over here back in mid-February and early February to mid-February. So for SPX, the levels that you guys had to be looking at here. So if I go on the 2-hour time frame, right? So we have found intermittent and intraday support around, I would say 4079, or if you guys just want to round up, 4080, right over here. And then we have a potential bull flag forming, so possibly a trend line like this, right? So who knows what could happen, but this could happen here, right? So this descending level of resistance trend line should make a nice flag, and obviously the flag pull will be right over here, this impulse run up. And depending on where we reject, we can see a rejection around 4120, right? But ultimately, what I want to see is a retest of 4150 to 4160. Why? Well, that's where we saw a huge rejection and obviously a huge area of supply that came in back in early February to mid-February that caused this nice run to the downside. And so if we're able to retest this area, this 4150 to 4160 area, the supply area, there's a good chance that we can see a possible hold of this area and a break over this area and possibly breaking over that 4195.44 high pivot point area. Okay, so this specific level here we need to break over to create a higher high, which will mean that in the longer term perspective, we are indeed in a new uptrend, right, compared to the last uptrend over here, right, back in early January of this year, right? So hopefully we are able to continue up higher. Obviously I want to see a nice breakout out of this potential descending level of resistance this week or whether it be in the next few weeks. But so far the intraday time frames, the daily time frame, the weekly time frame, we are in for a nice uptrend, a continuation of the uptrend after seeing March lows here of this year. All right, so again, SPY, SPX, they all look the same, right? Because again, it is the S&P 500. Now, for SPY, again, if you go back to the 2-hour time frame, we have a lot of room left to run. So again, don't be bearish. I mean, I've been saying this for months. I've been saying this since last year, right, before the turn of this new year, and also even a couple months before that as well, because breadth continued to improve, especially for all of December. And that's the reason why we stayed bullish as we continued to consolidate in mid to late December. And that's when we got that nice breakout at the start of this new year. So again, breadth continues to be strong as we chop around and consolidate between 406 to 412. All right, and so that's the reason why I really want to see a nice pop higher, eventually a break over 410.50, and then a retest at 412, and eventually 413, which will be the maximum level here before we see a rejection and possibly some consolidation, and then another run up higher to see a break over this 416.72 pivot high point. So just like SPX, as I just described right now to you guys on this 2-hour time frame. All right, so you guys can use my SPY analysis to place it onto your SPX charts. Right, it's the same thing. All right, the price action, the price trend is the same. Hey, welcome guys, welcome. So make sure you guys have the same levels as me. Now, for the people who are just joining in, I already went over SPY, QQQ, and IWM. So if you guys want to, look at my analysis again, make sure you guys check out the recording of this video, which will be posted right after the live stream is done. But for now, if you guys have any tickers that you want me to go over before the week starts, all right, make sure you guys put it in the chat. This is your only time to get some valuable technical analysis and insights onto the name that you guys are looking at. So make sure you guys type in the chat right now below this live stream and give me some names for me to do some great CFO technical analysis. So I will be waiting here. Actually, while I'm waiting, why not just I do a summary of QQQ and IWM. So as I'm waiting, all right, make sure you guys, again, type in the chat below, the live chat below, on what tickers that you guys want me to go over and do some good technical analysis on, and especially before the new trading week starts. All right, I also want to see what you guys are looking at. So QQQ looks absolutely amazing again, right? As we're now forming this lower high and lower low trend here. So what does that mean? Well, it could mean that we're making a flag. And again, that's the reason why I drew this descending level of resistance on SPX, right? And I will also be looking at it that way on SPY, right? I mean, I'm not really going to try since I really do have a lot of trend lines here that I want to look at on every intraday time frame. But again, QQQ has already been making this nice descending level of resistance for us to be looking at, and potentially this could be a nice flag after a breakout over this descending level of resistance. And so if we do continue to see strength in QQQ, I expect us to stay over at least 316 this week, okay, and then consolidate between this descending level of resistance until we hit that convergence point. All right, and at that point I would expect the price action to become very, very tight, right? And if that happens, we can potentially see that breakout over this descending level of resistance, and you'll get that nice big breakout over this descending level of resistance and possibly retest 321 by this week, by the end of this week, who knows, right? And ultimately, if I go back on the daily time frame, we need to get back to the previous pivot high points here, just like we did for SPY and SPX, right? And so we need to get back to at least the 330s here to at least have an attempt at the most recent pivot highs, which was back in mid-August of last year. So $332.51, 332.51. And again, that is a bit far away, right? And so I will just continue to be optimistic on where the price can go. But so far, again, we are still in a very nice uptrend, right? There's no reason to be bearish. Okay, and then IWM, right? IWM, we have basically consolidation, right? We're seeing the same consolidation in the same area back in December, right? And as the overall market breadth continues to improve, I expect IWM to continue to consolidate, and eventually, if money rotates back into small caps, we will eventually see a nice break over this critical level of resistance at 177.50 and have, hopefully have another retest attempt at the 200 SMA to remount it and get back over the daily 200 SMA as it had between January to mid-February, right? And obviously after February ended, we saw that nice move lower, and ultimately we ended up staying below it again. So IWM is obviously in a worse state compared to QQQ and SPY. But again, I'm still hopeful for this one. IWM tends to range trade a lot instead of having a nice uptrend or a downtrend, right? Whatever it may be. But again, I expect another third retest of 199 here. So this has been, we have been seeing a second retest in late January, right? And so if we get another third retest sometime around here in the next couple of months, all right, I expect us to have a nice breakout out of a huge base, because again, if we do decide to consolidate on a weekly time frame here, right, as we've been so far between 165 to 199, right, this will be a huge macro base that we can break out of eventually, right? Over 199 and eventually back to the 200s. But this will only happen if we see a nice money rotation or a sector rotation back into small caps, right? And this will ultimately affect the small cap ETF, which is the Russell 2000 or IWM, right? So make sure you guys keep an eye out on that. All right, so I guess no tickers for tonight, unless you guys want me to wait a little longer. So, again, guys, this week is a pivotal week. We have the March inflation data coming in as well. So this one's going to be a very, very important week to see if we can see inflation continue to go down, or it might see, all right, there's a possibility, a slight possibility that we are seeing a second time again, all right, of inflation slowing down, right? The inflation slowing down here. So, again, we need to be watching out for that. Hey, so we have our first ticker here, PLTR. Good one. So I mentioned this one in the previous live streams here because one of the viewers here submitted it. So again, we're taking a look at PLTR. So PLTR has been holding up quite well as we are now consolidating between 6.50 to around 8.50, or if you guys want to be specific, 8.70 to 8. I would say like 60, right? But overall, again, I don't want to be too specific here since technical analysis tends to be a little bit subjective if we go down to the actual details. But overall, PLTR has been holding quite well. And also, if you go on the weekly time frame, you guys can see clearly a inverse head and shoulders, right? So this is looking very, very good. So if you guys didn't know, a inverse head and shoulders chart pattern is an inherently bullish chart pattern. So we have our inverted head here, right over here, an inverted left shoulder, and an inverted right shoulder, which we are currently forming now. And it's a very pivotal area here on the inverted right shoulder because on the weekly time frame, we have this weekly 50 SMA that is basically not allowing the price to move up higher. It's being a huge caveat to a potential move or a break to the upside. So again, we need to break over the 50 SMA, right? And continue to stay over this weekly 50 SMA, and that will only happen if we're able to break out of this resistance level that I just told you guys about, this 8.60 level, right? And once we're able to do that, then we can possibly get back to double digits per share, right? So at least over $10 and retest this previous high pivot point of $10.31. Okay, but again, this is looking like a very, very nice base here as we, hit new lows after finding all-time highs at $45 flat in the start of 2021, right? And so it has come a long way here, all the way back down to the ground, right? It fell back towards the earth after skyrocketing into space. But again, PLTR, I believe it's at a nice valuation so far, even though it's still burning cash like no tomorrow. Even though it's been, getting contracts left and right, military and government contracts left and right that are worth hundreds of millions and overall billions, right? So PLTR has to do something about their cash burning addiction. But yeah, I mean, this might be a good time to accumulate some good amount of shares here. Okay, so again, look out for a breakout over $8.60, and ultimately on the weekly time frame, we should be over the weekly 50 SMA by that point. All right, so that is it for PLTR. Does anyone else have any tickers that you guys want me to go over before tomorrow? And I will also be looking at this one as well. I mean, this looks great. Looks really, really good. Make sure you guys are drinking water as well. Some good old H2O. Hey, welcome guys. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to the weekend live stream. Hey, thank you guys for the likes. We're at 6 likes now. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Anyone else have any tickers that you guys want me to go over? I have one in mind. That's a pretty popular one. SoFi. So SOFI, right? SoFi Technology. So this is a financial and tech name. I would say it's kind of a nice blend. So basically a fintech name, and this one had a nice breakout, right, at the start of this year. I even indicated that this one will have a nice breakout back in early December with this nice inverted head and shoulders. So it kind of looks like PLTR, but on a broader and longer term perspective because it's on a weekly time frame. But SOFI has a nice uptrend so far. However, just last week we decided to lose the daily 200 SMA again, right? As the past few weeks we've been seeing constant retest and a constant loss of the 200 SMA. So this one is kind of in dangerous waters here. All right, so we have this potential bear flag forming. All right, so we have higher highs and higher lows, but we're not forming this nice consolidation, which could lead to a nice break below this ascending level of support, this ascending support trend line. And so this can potentially be a nice short for this new upcoming week, this new upcoming trading week, especially if we have a nice reversal in the overall markets. And that could be due to, again, inflation data coming out on Wednesday. Who knows? But again, if you guys are looking for a short this week, this could potentially be a nice short, as on Thursday, we decided to reject both the short-term 10 SMA and the long-term 200 SMA. So if I go closer here, the 10 is my red line and the 200 is my yellow line. And that is not good, right? And especially, I mean, just the past few trading days, we've been seeing this full bearish red candlesticks, right? Consecutively, back to back, right? And this is usually a telltale sign of a nice downtrend about to happen. And we have this consolidation that's now forming a nice potential bear flag, right? Or if you guys want to just focus on the immediate trend lines here, we're forming a nice ascending ascending channel chart pattern, right? And that is inherently bearish. They tend to see a breakout to the downside. So for this one, take a good look at this one because it can break below this ascending level of support, right? This trend line, and ultimately break below this horizontal level of support at 5.55, so $5.55. And if you do break below that, look out for an area to get out around 5.20, or even the previous pivot low point, this low pivot point of $5.10, 5.10. Right, so SOFI, this one has seen better days as well after reaching a huge high pivot point of $8.24 in early February, like with every other single name in the market, and obviously the market itself, where we topped out on February 2nd. But again, SOFI, if we do decide to uphold this ascending support trend line, we can still revisit this ascending resistance trend line as we've seen so far in the past 3 times right here, right? So this is the first candlestick, the second one right here, and then the third, right? So 1st, 2nd, 3rd, okay? All right, so no one else have anyone have any takers for me to look at. This will be it for tonight. Hopefully the analysis given to you guys, the SPY, QQQ, and IWM technical analysis was very, very insightful. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up down below. And if you guys aren't subscribed yet, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and also hit that notification bell so that you guys are reminded of when I am live on YouTube. Hey, do nothing, you're welcome. Hopefully that PLTR analysis was good. And hopefully it kind of encompasses everything that you guys should know for PLTR for everyone who's watching as well. And hopefully you guys can pick up some shares for the long term or even leap contracts, right? Leaps. Okay, that is it for me tonight. If you guys are watching this recording, make sure you guys go back to around the 5 to 6 minute mark, which is when I start this live stream. So make sure you guys go back to the analysis of SPY, QQQ, and IWM because it will be helpful for this new upcoming week. I'll see you guys all on Tuesday, and thank you so much for joining and liking this live stream.